Welcome to the Power of Babel, the podcast where nothing's off the table. From Bible mysteries and strange phenomena to the questions that keep you up at night, we explore it all with curiosity and faith. I'm your host, Courtney, joined by my co-hosts, Caleb and Jeremy. Together, we dive into the weird, the wonderful, and the wildly curious. So grab your coffee, open your mind, and let's babble. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Power of Babel. We're so glad that you joined us again. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good, doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I'm kicking.
That's what he always says.
It's summer.
It is summer, yes.
You know what summer means?
What does it mean?
All sorts of things.
Okay.
Heat, that's the thing.
It's
Yeah.
hot. There's no school for most kids.
Summer blockbusters.
Summer blockbuster.
Summer blockbusters,
That's a good one.
yeah. Y'all seen any good ones lately? You been to the movies, Jeremy, recently?
I don't go to the movies.
No?
I see 1 to 2 movies per year.
I'm with you.
And usually when somebody drags me to one, and there's all kinds of movies that I'm like, oh, maybe I want to see that, and then I just never end up going to see.
Is it just like you don't want to spend the money on? That's how I am. I'm just like, I'll just stream it when it comes out.
It's not so much the movie. It's like working out a time to go and sit down at a movie theater and watch this thing.
Yeah, I feel honored by what Jeremy has just disclosed, though.
Why?
Which will be a keyword. Because he says he only goes to 1 or 2 movies a year, but I feel like last year that we went to 2 or 3 movies.
Yes, I think
Wow.
every single
Friendship.
movie I saw last year was because you said, "Hey, do you want to see this?" And I was like, "Yeah."
I am facilitating Jeremy's social life.
Basically, yes.
You're the one in
Yeah.
charge.
That's funny.
We went and saw. I'd never go to the movies. For me, it's like, why? It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Why spend the money when I can just stream it whenever it comes out?
Unless you get on the A list. It's still expensive, but less expensive.
I did that, and yeah, it's just expensive. I didn't see as much as you go every week, don't you? I feel like you're at
I haven't lately, but I used to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's truly impressive.
But we went and saw Toy Story 5.
Nice.
It was really cute. It wasn't as I was like fully going and expecting it to be like anti-technology. Have y'all seen the
I know the premise and the controversy around that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
It's just no spoilers, but it's about the idea is that tech is taking over all the kids. All the toys are looking out the windows and kids are on screens. Nobody's playing with toys anymore. So I thought it was going to be heavy-handed on like anti-technology, which actually I was kind of like, yeah, sure, let's do that. But it wasn't. It was really cute. Yeah.
Nice.
It was really cute.
The original 3, I'm a little resistant because the original trilogy of Toy Story movies, you can make an argument that it's the best trilogy of all time. I'm not saying that
not the best trilogy of all time.
Do not get me wrong. I'm not claiming that it is. I'm saying if someone argued it, I could see where they're coming from. And the reason why is because most trilogies, there's at least one weak link. Like most trilogies, people are like,
What do you have to say about Star Wars?
Well, the thing is people.
Watch your words.
A lot of people will tell you that Return of the Jedi is not as good as Empire or New Hope.
A lot of people
I know
are
nothing
wrong.
about what you're saying because
A lot of people are wrong.
I think it's a little messy, but I like all 3 of those movies. But most trilogies, it's like there's it's like The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2, amazing. Part 3, trash. Right. So
Never seen those either.
Yeah, I love the original Toy Story movies, but and the 4th one is not bad. It's just like I don't know.
I don't even remember the 4th one.
It's
Was that the carnival one?
The 4th one, yeah.
It's the one that has a spork in it.
Yeah, Bo Peep was
Watch your mouth about Forky.
Forky. It was the cringe Forky character in Girl Boss Bo Peep. That's what it was.
Yes. Okay, I am
Boss
remembering
Bo
that
Peep.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the original 3 though, untainted, completely perfect movies.
I really liked them. Yeah. Go watch Toy Story 5. It's a cute one.
So it justifies its existence as the 5th movie in a franchise that was never meant to be a franchise.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know I sound kind of salty about this.
That's
but
what I'm saying.
I have a lot
Wait
of
for 6 to come out.
They'll do it.
They
you know
will,
what?
they
They
will.
will, Tim Allen and all the other cast members
It's like printing money.
Could be in the grave, and they will use AI to resurrect their voice.
Oh, for sure.
And,
no, I mean it probably will. The premise of the movie might be AI at that point.
And in 2045, we will get like Toy Story 8 or something.
It is printing money. I don't even blame them.
Yeah. What about you? Have you seen any good ones? You were kind of dropping some hints.
Yeah. So the movie that I saw recently is the latest entry from Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
Which is Disclosure Day. Much anticipated by me for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One reason is that I love Steven Spielberg movies. I mean, not all of them. Obviously, there's hardly any directors that I would say I like all of their movies, but he has made some really excellent movies over the years.
So for someone that doesn't know much about film, what are some of his movies that he's made?
Jaws. So
absolutely.
About summer blockbusters. I mean, you're just abusing.
What's his name? Grogurt?
Grogu.
Baby Yoda.
Grogu.
Sorry, Grogu.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jaws. You got me all flustered. I just came back from the beach. I'm like, Jaws, you can't say that.
Yeah, so Jaws is the original summer blockbuster, actually.
Love it.
Yeah.
And there's one. The one I love the most is Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the greatest adventure movie ever made.
Good movie.
I think I've seen it.
Saving Private Ryan, arguably one of the greatest war films ever made. Schindler's List, a tremendous Holocaust adjacent film.
Interesting.
I mean, the list goes on.
Many.
So many really excellent movies.
Did he do Shawshank Redemption?
No.
Who was that?
That's Frank Darabont, I think.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Great movie.
There's a case to be made, and I think it's a much stronger case than the one for Toy Story being the best trilogy. There's a case to be made that Spielberg might be the greatest director of all time.
He's in the discussion. There's always 3 or 4 names that are mentioned. People mention Alfred Hitchcock, Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick, and of course the only other living guy would be Martin Scorsese. Are the people that people name as potentially the greatest.
Yeah.
So, but some of the movies I haven't mentioned are some of his extraterrestrial alien-related movies, because that's obviously an area of interest. So the most famous being literally E.T., the extraterrestrial.
That's right. Why is Grogu here? Well, I leave that to you all, audience, to figure that out.
Yeah. But he's done other ones too, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I think is actually a pretty good movie. War of the Worlds. I mean, I'm sure there are probably others that are escaping me, but this is something that he's returned to it throughout his career. The idea of aliens, and so it's been a while since he's had a movie that's come out, and I was just anxious to see whatever his next film would be. But then also, when I heard that it was a movie about aliens, it's called Disclosure Day. Disclosure being disclosure of the fact that there are aliens in existence in this movie.
Right, the disclosure
by
in the
movie, he said.
If official sources, right?
Right, so like if the government disclosed to the public that there are aliens.
So it's kind of adjacent to what's going on right now.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, the timing of the release was like the same day or the same week that the U.S. government actually disclosed some new files. They've done 3 drops recently of different files on like war.gov or something.
I actually heard like there were conspiracy theories going around that the government had contracted Spielberg to make this movie to psychologically prepare people for
actual disclosure.
Like them hauling out like an alien saying, "Here it is, guys." But I think that's nuts.
It is nuts, but it was fueled by Spielberg himself, I would say, probably unintentionally on his part, because he did lots of interviews and press leading up to the release of the movie where he was, I think more so than ever, he's always talked about how interested he is in the topic, and we've all known that just from the movies that he's made, but I think more transparently than ever, he was talking about how he is a true believer. Like, he really believes that there are such beings, and he even made comments that suggest that he thinks that the government knows about something like this and that they're keeping it from us. So I think a lot of people sort of read into the comments and sort of thought, well, there's a connection between the real quote unquote disclosure that's going on and then this extraordinarily high profile director putting out a movie on this very topic.
Interesting.
So I was anxious to see the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not seen it. Did you see it, Jeremy?
I haven't seen it. I've read multiple things about it, but I haven't seen it.
Unfortunately, if
Okay.
you've seen the trailers for the film, you've seen the film.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I've heard.
So Caleb is friends with my brother,
Yeah.
and they had all I heard was I don't even remember what the actual thing was. Like y'all were just like talking about the movie. I
Yeah,
think
oh,
I
yeah.
had even asked y'all like how was the movie,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then 2 hours go by
I don't think it was
of
that
them
long.
just ranting about this movie. And
Yeah.
I'll let you share your thoughts on it. But what is the movie about?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
talk
assumed
us through it.
yeah, I assumed going into it that the movie would be about disclosure. Disclosure Day is what the whole premise is, and so
Yeah.
I thought, okay, so the movie's going to happen. They're going to disclose that there are aliens, and then the movie's going to be about, what are the ramifications of this? What's the aftermath? How does this impact the world?
Yeah, like are we going to see people like looting Target or people like
Well,
going insane?
and Spielberg had said, and this is one reason why I think this is relevant to our podcast, to the Babylonites out there, is because he had made some comments in the press, and I don't have the exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing here. You can look it up if you want, but he had made some comments about how the movie was very much relevant to religion, and that it was
Interesting.
very much relevant to people of faith, and that some of the themes and contents of the movie might actually impact people's faith and the way that they think about it. And so there were a
Was he
lot.
talking about Christianity specifically?
Well, I think
what you gathered from it?
the broad strokes were faith in general, or belief in God, but then the only religion featured in the film is Christianity.
Okay.
Now that makes sense, I guess, thematically, because it's like in the Western world, it's the primary religion.
But it doesn't, because Spielberg does have a history of making movies about the Jewish experience,
and he is Jewish himself,
and he is Jewish.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to imply that he's like targeting Christianity. Like it's probably more so that Christianity kind of is viewed as the default kind of
I think he's
status quo religion in the West. But like there is a different version of this movie, it sounds like, that would have been a little more thoughtful.
Yeah, I think that he probably is just, and I understand that why someone might do this. I think he uses Christianity as sort of an avatar for religion, period.
Yeah, which is,
or at least monotheistic religion.
Yeah, which is silly though, because of a number of things that we'll probably discuss.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But so this is what
should we just give like a disclosure here?
Yes.
That we're gonna have spoilers.
Oh yeah,
of this
I'm
movie.
gonna spoil this film.
So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to, maybe not watch this episode until you do.
What I would say though to our audience, respectfully, is that you don't want to watch this movie.
I'm gonna have to see it.
I think
I was told by a friend that a psychological thriller-ish adjacent movie. Is that false? That it would.
That's definitely how it's been marketed.
Yeah.
That it's a good watch. That I should see it.
I would say it's questionable psychology, and there's nothing thrilling about it.
Ooh,
but that would be
Okay.
my evaluation of the movie. And here's the thing. So most of my criticisms of the movie are filmmaking criticisms. Like
Okay, I wouldn't have any of that though. So I would probably really
might,
like the
you actually
movie.
might enjoy this, Court.
I'm gonna watch it.
The thing is I just I think it's a swing and a miss from a filmmaking point of view. But there are some interesting themes that Spielberg tries to tackle in the movie that I think he fails at miserably. I appreciate what he's trying to do, sort of, but I think he just misses on it. And the first criticism is that what I thought the movie was, which was disclosure and then the ramifications, that's not what the movie is.
And
Okay.
That's what many people thought it would be.
So the title is misleading.
It's misleading.
Because I have been keeping up with some of the conversation around this movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and we warned you there's going to be spoilers. A lot of people said, well, I expected the first act to be like, hey guys, there's aliens, and then the rest of the movie about something downstream of that. But that's
Yeah.
not what is that
Oh, I
not
mean,
what we
I
get at
thought
all?
that it would have been really cool. I mean, this is kind of what I expected from the film, which is that I thought that, especially because of the advertising campaign with the trailers and stuff,
Mhm.
usually good trailers, if they're done right, it usually just shows you things from the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And so you don't have context and you can't put the pieces together. That's not the case, because I thought it was going to be first 5 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
it's just like cold open disclosure happens, and so you're sort of thrown into
Yeah.
the chaos of it all. That would have been great. But instead what happens is there is someone, I'm giving you the very dumb version of this, which is someone who works for an organization, steals a bunch of files on like a thumb drive or something, and then escapes with it, and then he is trying to hatch a plan of how to release this information to the public and disclose that the
So the
government,
ending is the disclosure
the
day.
last
That can't be the
the
that
last
can't be the
5
plot.
minutes of the movie are disclosure. Everything up to that is a
Interesting.
chase of these people, of this government. It's not a government organization. It's actually a private organization that like works with the government, that is chasing this guy through. So the whole movie's a chase.
So you're telling me that somebody who works for the equivalent of or is associated with the equivalent of WikiLeaks gets their hands on a bunch of government files
Uh,
and doesn't know how to distribute them.
well,
That's the plot of this movie?
Well, this is why one reason why it's so disheartening is because he is supposedly like an expert level hacker, and like an expert level computer security systems guy. Like he's that, a whiz or whatever. And then he gets all the information, and at one point says pretty early on in the movie, "I'm gonna put this on the internet," which seems like the obvious play. Like
Do it, bro.
put it
Do
on
it.
Reddit, right? And
Just
and when he does, another gentleman whom he's working with tells him, "Under no circumstances can you do that." Now, the implication is, I wanted to fill in the blanks and say, because if you do, the movie's over. Right. Right.
Yeah, this is the classic, like, why? Because the plot demands it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But like, think about it. And this I've heard other criticisms of this, right? Of this particular like whole like reason for the movie's plot is that they have to disseminate this information.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like in an era where we have smartphones, we have guerrilla journalists, we have WikiLeaks, we have all kinds of ways to disseminate even very sensitive information on the internet. And like, and the idea that okay, is one of the characters, one of the main characters, she's a journalist, right? She's like a news
So
reporter.
this is where, okay, so this will sort of sum up the rest of the summary of the film, but it does get very hilarious in my mind, which is that he's forbidden from doing the obvious thing that would end the movie.
Right, WikiLeaks guy can't WikiLeaks.
No explanation. No explanation is given for why he can't do that. But as the audience, it's like, oh yeah, this would ruin the movie. And then the other plan. Here's what we're really gonna do. We can't do that because it'll end the film, but we'll do this instead. The this instead part is that they're going to broadcast it on a local legacy media news channel, like a local like News Channel 9, or our local, like that kind of thing.
Why?
That'll do it.
Is there like a relationship with this journalist and like that
Well,
progresses?
she turns
like,
out to
throughout?
be kind of co-opted by the aliens. And so like where they did something to her, now she's special. And turns out the guy who stole the information is also special. But there's no
What are
reason.
the odds?
I know, but there's no reason why it has to. In my mind, I couldn't figure it out. Why it has to be disclosed through a local television station. And
they're just trying to rep their city,
I guess. And in the film, the local TV report then gets picked up by all the major news outlets, and then it spreads to CNN and Fox and NBC and ABC and all this stuff. And I don't know. It's like
I don't think that's how that works.
It's like Mr. Spielberg, I should say. Are you really under the impression that we live in a world like we did 50 years ago, where legacy media is the most efficient way of disseminating news? I don't. It's very odd.
The effect of this basically is that only people over the age of 40 know that aliens exist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, no, because there's people. I'm not making this up. In the scene where they're broadcasting, there's people outside the studio filming with their camera phones through the window. So it's just like this. None of it
Oh,
makes any sense.
wow.
So yeah,
One of the most insightful comments I heard about this, the absurdity of this, was if they really wanted to disclose this, and WikiLeaks wasn't an option
yeah,
for whatever reason,
or
all
4chan.
they had to do was take an alien out into the park and say, "Hey guys, look at this," and everybody
Yeah,
whips their phones
it
out.
would
It's
go
all over
viral.
TikTok,
Yeah,
Yeah.
YouTube, Twitter, all that, like instantaneously.
Yeah. So
And
the movie is, needless to say, I think it's just a poorly executed movie. I mean, there are moments in it where there are shots in the film where I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful Spielberg shot. You know, there are moments of the score, it's John Williams, and you're like, okay, this could have been good, but it's just a poor script. The the elements that are were of interest to me were the themes I think that he was trying to get in touch with about what would disclosure. This seems to be, if I'm reading Spielberg's mind correct by watching the film, the question in his mind seems to be, if disclosure were to occur, how would this affect people's systems of belief, meaning, and value?
mhm.
And because at one point there is a notable character who is the love interest of the man who's wanting to leak the information, and she's a former nun in training. Like, she was going to school to be a nun,
Mhm.
and then she sort of fell away from the faith, allegedly. Um, but when she hears that he's going to, and he tells her what the info is that he's going to disclose to the world, she impulsively says, "You can't do that because religion." And
Okay.
her reasoning is it will destroy everyone's faith. And she's like, people need God. Like, people need like she's not arguing in the film that God is real or anything like that. She's arguing that there is a social utility to belief in God.
Like, people need the hope of
They
something
need the
else.
hope,
Yeah.
yeah, the unifying hope, and that if disclosure of alien life were given, then this would somehow annihilate that.
Okay.
And so she pleads with him not to do this.
That is the sort of thing that I would expect someone who had stepped away from the faith to potentially say. So I'm not going to knock him on that, but I have also heard that this person says something to the effect of, the Bible teaches that humanity is God's supreme creation.
Yeah, later on in the film, and we'll get to that because
Okay.
that'll come up later. But at one point she does say something like, well, she actually says in Genesis,
Yeah.
it says that humanity is God's supreme creation. Which, when I heard it in the film, I was like, I don't think it actually says that.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, we're created to rule and reign over his creation.
yeah, so we're given authority by God, and we are created in His image.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not synonymous with saying we are His supreme creation,
Right.
because of the fact that who are we to say that we are the only imagers of God?
Mm.
In fact, I have argued on other podcasts, we have argued on other podcasts, that there in fact are other imagers of God in the narrative of the Old Testament.
Mm-hmm.
That very possibly could, quote unquote, outrank us, if you want to think of that. Like Jude, in Jude, for example, there's a little bit of a rant against people who blaspheme the holy ones or whatever. I believe that's in Jude,
yes,
right?
and yes, it is. And
so there's this idea that, like, okay, I think you're trying to establish a hierarchy among humans, and supernatural beings is kind of silly and misses the point. But there is at least the idea that, like, these other things that God has created that are supernatural beings, like, you can't just be cavalierly dismissive or try to lord over or whatever.
so the Jude reference that you're thinking of is a good example of this, of where he seems to give high deference to angelic or supernatural beings.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Not to suggest that they are inferior to us in some way, but rather that we should be mindful of what we say about them. And then the other text that comes to my mind is in the book of Hebrews, when he's talking about the incarnation of Christ, and says that he took the form humans are a little
A
lower
little
than
lower.
the angels, it
Mhm.
says,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there actually is some textual evidence
That's an even better one, yeah.
that suggests that that's not the case, right? And if these are the imagers, and we go listen to some of our other Divine Council podcasts where we talk about the plural language that's used in Genesis to refer to these other imagers of God. So I say all that to say that it's a presumption, an assumption that is unwarranted to say that human beings are necessarily the supreme creation
Right.
of God.
Right.
Now, if the argument that you're making is the one that you brought up, Court, which is to say, look, we have a special role in the plan of this creation on this planet, and that God has divested to us certain responsibilities that are unique, and that may be in the plan of redemption that we are unique compared to other created things. That's fine, but that's very different than assuming that there are no other extraordinary creations on God's part.
Mm.
I guess my question is like in the context of what, because I've not seen the movie, like what she was meaning by that. I'm
Mm.
assuming like in response to like shaking people's hope
Yeah.
in something greater than them. What does that, how does that shake? I'm trying to think about like my own, if there was aliens out there, it's not going to shake what I believe of how God views me. I'm
Mhm.
trying to make that connection of
Yeah.
why she would say
Yeah.
that and why that would be relevant at all.
I was equally puzzled. I am equally
Yeah.
puzzled by the thing that you're pointing out here, which is that it's difficult. I'm trying to be sympathetic to the mindset and say, look,
Yeah.
okay, let me see how this might play in someone's mind. It's hard for me to imagine how this would create theological angst for someone.
Mhm.
I really think it might come down to something as simple as, this character or Spielberg. Maybe Spielberg is using this character as a mouthpiece. Maybe, I don't know. But this straw man is actually assumed to be correct. And if you assume the straw man is correct, which the Bible says explicitly, we are the supreme creation, and if that can be shown that that is not true, because there's aliens out there who can control people with their minds and have advanced technology and are better than us or whatever, then that means the Bible is wrong. Then that means you can't have faith. Like this kind of thinking. And again, it's entirely based on a mistaken assumption of what the Bible says.
Yeah.
But I can piece that part together. I just think it's kind of a lot of weight to put on something that, a claim that the Bible supposedly made that obviously wasn't really looked
Yeah, that,
into.
that that's
Yeah.
my issue is that the on that scenario, it's based on something that's just not true. I
Yeah.
mean, the scripture doesn't say that. Now, what's interesting about this is you mentioned this earlier about what is claimed in the movie about Genesis says this.
Hmm.
So this is what's strange is that Spielberg seems to be the question that he thinks is most profound.
Hmm.
And this is why I'm puzzled, because to me it's not that profound a question, because as a Christian believer, I don't see any conflict. I don't see how there in principle how there could be conflict in the idea that God created us on earth and also may have created other beings.
Yeah.
That it's not evident to me, but to him at least, he thinks this is a profound question and dilemma. So I will give him credit for this. He tries to treat religion with respect in the film, and he tries to illustrate to the audience, because he assumes, it seems, that the audience also feels this tension, and he tries to present to the audience that there need not be any tension. And the way he resolves this is that late in the film, this girl who had fallen away from her faith, that she calls a nun, who was a practicing nun, who is sort of a mentor to her, and she says to her, while disclosures taking place or about to take place, I can't remember, she says this quote about what are we going to do? What should we think about this? Because in Genesis it says that we are God's supreme creation. And it's supposed to be just like a gotcha kind of thing to the nun. And the nun interrupts her and says, on earth.
Oh, okay.
And she says, it says that we're his supreme creation on earth. It doesn't say anything else.
So this is basically okay. So it's looking unlikely that that objection wasn't really Spielberg's. That he knew all along that it wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he sets up the problem as though
yeah,
he thinks the audience thinks this is a problem,
Mm.
or
yeah.
that something like that.
So the issue is that like he's projecting a straw man onto the audience's beliefs, which I
Mm.
don't think a lot of people hold.
No, that's my problem. It's the same thing that Courtney was sort of expressing, which is that the straw man. I could see why you would do this if it were a commonly held straw man,
Yeah,
right?
But I mean, maybe it is. I mean,
I
maybe
don't.
not like
I
within
don't
our
think
circles,
so.
but
I don't
are
think
there?
so.
Okay,
I think that,
yeah,
and the reason why I say that is because if you look at like polling data, you'll see that there is wide belief in
Hmm.
extraterrestrial life among believers and non-believers.
mm,
I mean,
I,
I c-
I'm sure that there are people. I don't want to be too strong on this because I'm sure that there are people out there who think that this might pose some kind of conflict to Christian faith. But I'll tell you anecdotally,
mhm,
the people that I've heard say this most of the time are unbelievers. They think that we
mhm.
think this,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Maybe
whereas,
it's like a dumb Christianity, like
yeah,
those dumb
I
Christians. They don't know,
yeah,
you know.
I could see this being or something like it being an issue among like really really hardcore fundamentalists
yes,
of like okay, well, Genesis 1 describes everything that was created. Aliens are not mentioned, therefore aliens are unbiblical.
yeah,
Like in that, but that is not by any means representative of, you know, mainstream Christian
yeah, the
biblical
majority
interpretation.
of
Like even
Christianity.
among conservative Christians, that would be, you know, something that I think many of them would look upon with like, well, that's not really how to handle that.
Yeah.
But like it is kind of interesting that like Spielberg wanted to make a movie about aliens and faith and whatever. And number one, chose Christianity as kind of like this default, apparently. Which, but the problem is that we've gone into, and why I said it was you can't really do that is because, you know, Christianity makes very specific claims. How it's going to be impacted by the disclosure of aliens, if at all, is going to be dependent on those claims.
Mm.
Same thing with Islam. Same thing with, you know, Judaism. Same thing with Hinduism, right? All of these religions and all the different branches of them are going to respond to that in different and interesting ways. And so I don't really think that there is kind of like a default reaction of people of faith. I think that's kind of a secular fantasy.
Yeah,
Mm.
Um, yeah, but also there's other interesting ways that such a movie could be made, right? Like there's a different movie out there potentially that's oh, aliens are real and oh, they're God, right? Aliens are divine beings and they have come to, you know, spread their knowledge and their alien religion or whatever to us, right? That is you know, speaking personally, that is a much more interesting angle that lets you explore some interesting tensions because it
Mhm.
kind of blurs the line between some of the most, you know, extreme materialist ideas about how we got here, as being, you know, the product. There are people out there who believe that life on this earth was seeded by
yeah,
aliens.
panspermia.
Yep.
Mhm.
And but also with explicit religious overtones, like that could be an interesting thing to see, like, you know, how people of faith navigate these aliens that show up and claim to be divine beings or like God or whatever.
Yeah,
I want to take you back to what you just said. I haven't heard this. There's people that believe you said panspermia.
Yes.
panspermia. Yeah, so panspermia is the broadly speaking because there are lots of flavors of this. But there, it is broadly speaking the claim that there is advanced extraterrestrial life out there in the
Hmm.
cosmos,
Okay.
and that one of the things that they have done
Hmm.
is that they have gone throughout the cosmos and basically planted the seeds of life on various
Hmm.
planets, and that they've sort of, in some versions, they even cultivate that life and sort of
Yes.
bring it along the evolutionary path
Okay.
to sort of spread life throughout the universe.
Yes.
And the claim here would be we are such a product of such seeds, right?
Right.
That actually we owe our existence to this extraterrestrial race that's out there that planted the seeds of humanity.
Is it like a religious belief? Like, do they believe that
No,
No.
it's God's in any way?
no,
No.
It like literally just
M-
extraterrestrial.
Most forms of, I'm sure there are certain kinds of like astral
yeah,
alien deity cults that also would be fine with this and adopt
Yeah.
it, but for most of the people that I'm familiar with who are on board with this, it's a strictly materialist thing. Like
yes,
these are other creatures, they're just highly advanced. The benefit of that,
Sorry.
the benefit of that is that it explains why life was able to develop here in extremely unlikely circumstances.
Yes.
But it does that only, I think, by shifting the goalpost of like,
It
okay,
just
well, where
moves the
did the
question
alien,
back is all it
where
does.
did those aliens come from,
Yeah.
right? But this is like a really, if you're really into sci-fi, this is kind of like a popular trope that keeps popping up. Like, one that I'm personally familiar with is there's a franchise of role playing games on the Xbox called Mass Effect,
Yeah.
which insanely popular, really
Never
well
heard of
made,
it.
kind of mature, so I wouldn't really necessarily recommend them. But basically, the big spoiler for like a 15, 20-year-old game.
I
In
think
the
we're good.
first game, you're a human. You're, zipping around the galaxy. There's all kinds of other alien races. You're trying to join the intergalactic UN, right? Humanity's trying to join the intergalactic UN, and there's this evil race of like robot things that show up, and the big reveal of the game is that the evil robot things actually seeded all of this life across the galaxy and brought it to a certain level of development and left behind artifacts that they could learn from and would influence their technology so that they could come back after millions and millions of years and basically harvest all of this life for their own ends.
There's
Interesting.
another example of this would be that people might be more familiar with the Alien franchise of movies. So Alien, Aliens, Ridley Scott movies. There's another one that's a prequel called Prometheus,
Yes.
where this is part of the plot of that film, and it's hinted by the name Prometheus, who steals fire from the gods, right, and gives it to humanity. Is the claim that humanity was planted here in some way.
Yeah.
So the reason why this is relevant to what we've been talking about is because I wonder if Spielberg, I say I wonder because if this is what he intended, he did a poor job of establishing it in the film. But I wonder if he has something like this in mind. This idea that the aliens themselves will present themselves as gods, or that they will present themselves as an alternative to God in some way. And the short version of it, without just rehearsing the film, is that the two main characters, the man who's disclosing the information and the news reporter, who are special, they are special because they were abducted by aliens when they were children.
Ooh.
And that they were imparted with something from the aliens.
Okay.
The young man was imparted with the ability to communicate with the alien races through mathematics. So math and logic is how he's able. He has that give him the gift of mathematics, which is the gift of the language of the cosmos, right? And then the girl is given empathy. And these are supposedly like the two like ruling like forces, logic or mathematics and empathy, and that we need to combine them, right? And the idea here is that if we could only communicate, that's the mathematics thing, communicate with each other better and have empathy for one another, then there could be peace, among humanity, and that this is what the aliens want to give us.
Okay, isn't like some of the world building background for all these events that like World War III is about to happen or
Yes.
something? Okay, so basically like that's why the communication and empathy lesson is important, because we're about to like, kill a bunch of each other. But then the aliens long ago in the past laid the foundations for this, and now the disclosure.
Yeah, they wait until we're on the brink of nuclear war and we're about to kill ourselves, and then they're going to intervene and give us empathy and
They're like,
communication.
but wait, we imparted empathy into her.
So there may be a seed here.
I have so many questions about this.
Maybe I don't want to see this movie.
There may be a seed here of what you're saying, which is the idea is that Spielberg in one way wants to present the aliens as though they may be a savior in some way.
So
which is just fantasy, because we don't even know they exist, much less that they would be saviors.
So why didn't first question, why didn't the aliens give both of these gifts to one person?
I don't know.
You can't possess them both. That's crazy.
Okay, my second question, which gets to the bigger like interpretive stakes and like the actual identity and motivations of the aliens, is are they orchestrating this disclosure day? Do they want to be disclosed?
Yes, they are, because again, I don't want to go give a play-by-play of the film, but it's like, yes, they have given these gifts to these two people because they want the two people to sort of facilitate the disclosure.
To do it on News Channel 9.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
They want to be disclosed.
Okay, but like this implies some very interesting things about the aliens that I'm curious if the film goes into. Number one, that they can create plans that could be thrown off the rails for any number of reasons that span decades,
Are you
that depend on the
suggesting?
lives of two individuals.
Wait a second. Are you suggesting that that disclosing alien existence through a local television station based over a 50-year, a 40-year plan of these young people's
Yes.
lives is maybe not the best foolproof way of doing it?
I'm just saying that if this is I'm just saying that if this was the aliens' plan when they like probed those people as kids,
Yeah.
the aliens had to be reasonably sure they could engineer events such that
Yes.
this would happen at just the right point when World War III, which implies a really high level of manipulation and control
Yeah.
against over not only those two people but over humanity in
Maybe
general.
they have more providence than we're giving them credit for.
Oh yeah.
So are the aliens good or bad?
I think Spielberg wants us to think that they're good. I think because of this, they're gonna save us with communication and empathy.
Yeah.
But so I think maybe the reason why he loops in the whole religious aspect is
Uh-huh.
because of the reasons that you mentioned. He's thinking, well, this might be an alternative, right? That they might be seen as divine in some way because they're going to save us
Mhm.
from ourselves, which I think is an odd assumption to make about extraterrestrial life. But yeah, to sum up my feeling on the movie, and really the reason why it's more interesting to me than even the movie itself, which I mean, forget that movie, but um the question of what the existence of alien life would do to the world, which is what I thought the movie was about, um, is an interesting question.
Mm.
Yeah.
And how people would respond. I think that Jeremy is correct that there are a lot of people who would maybe not deify them in the sense of offering worship to extraterrestrial life, but there are lots of people who would do this foolish thing of saying, aha, there's the explanation for our existence.
Mhm.
That's how we got here. Even though, as he mentioned, this really only pushes the question one step further back. Even if you believe in something like panspermia, it's like, okay, well, where did they come from, right? I mean, this is an age-old thing. And so I guess the question of the religious significance of the existence of alien life, to me, is in different areas than what maybe the mass public thinks it is, or maybe what Steven Spielberg thinks it is. I think it's the same kind of questions that C.S. Lewis posed in his space trilogy, right? Which is about, well, what about the what about redemption for these other beings?
Yeah.
What about does the gospel apply to them? Those are the sorts of things, and we talked about that in Aliens Part 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they are they going to be as messed up as we are, or are they going to look at us and say, "Oh, that's pretty awful. Like how did things get that way?"
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which read the space trilogy if you haven't. It's really great.
Well, I think just with everything that's happening right now, and I don't know, I truly feel like I live off the grid in a lot of ways
You
just
do.
because I don't keep up with, and a lot of it is intentional for me. I don't keep up with a lot that's going on. But you alluded to earlier just how the opening of this movie kind of coincided with some events that are happening right now. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that just for my own knowledge.
Sure.
But I just think that people are just very curious, and I think it would definitely cause people to question, especially people that aren't maybe as solid in their faith. And maybe that's kind of the avenue that he's thinking
maybe.
is, these people that claim to be Christians or claim to be whatever. I could see how maybe they would be kind of thrown a bit like, oh, how does this,
Yeah.
because I don't really know what I believe. I think I'm a Christian kind of
Right.
thing. But what really is going on these days as far as disclosure and alien happenings?
I'll give my summary of it and then see if what Jeremy thinks, because I'm sure he's been keeping up with it some as well,
Somewhat.
at least more than Courtney.
savvy.
But I think what has happened is that there has been an enormous growth of public interest in the question.
Yeah.
Over the last number of years, but really in the last few years, it's really grown. It's very strange that there have been a couple of topics of interest in the public consciousness that have really just continued to escalate. Right. So one of which is conspiracy theories, which we've talked about in other episodes. I'm sure we'll talk about more. And then the other one is UFO, UAP, extraterrestrial phenomena.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, I referenced earlier, the polling data is enormous in favor of people believing that there is something out there, and there have been increasing demands from the public for the government. They believe the government is hiding something, and the current administration, the Trump administration, announced not too long ago that they were going to begin declassifying documents and videos and things of that nature and disclosing them to the public as a sort of response to the public outcry.
There's a documentary too about this, right? Somebody was telling me about.
There's many of them, and there've been a lot of them released recently.
Which we are doing a lot in space. There's a lot. There's people that are, like you said, documentaries. There's people that are sharing about, which we talked a lot about in Aliens Part 1. I guess we're gonna call this Part 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, so you can see why people are like, okay, what's really going on out there?
Yes. And that a lot of it has been sort of the flames have been fanned by some what I would call whistleblowers who are, a lot of these are military personnel, pilots, things like that, who have seen strange phenomena, unexplained, right? They don't know what happened, but something strange happened.
Astronauts, basically people who are very stable personalities, who have technical knowledge, who are, who have very little, if anything, to gain by making these claims.
Right. And so lots of claims, whistleblowers, in the sense that they've called attention to it and said, hey, what is this? And wanting to know more information. So the Trump administration has said we're going to, in waves, we're going to release certain documents and declassify those documents and make them available to the public.
Are the waves making more chaos?
Not really.
Okay.
This is the thing about it. My hot take, and I think this might actually be more disturbing than, the kind of default assumption that, you say aliens are here and everyone freaks out. What we're seeing is that for people who are very into these questions, they're hanging on all the updates, they're very interested, and they're very, this is energizing them and saying, yes, this is what we've been looking for all this time, now give us more. But for most of the population, people just don't care. I think it's getting to the point to where, and maybe, if you're, I really need my tinfoil hat again, but if you're of that kind of persuasion, you could almost say the way that this is being disseminated and disclosed is encouraging people to overlook it. And maybe that's the point.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, maybe that's the point.
You could have a credible government source leak that an alien was responsible for shooting JFK. And I'm not really sure it would make crazy waves like it should, because I think that the way that most of the public, myself included, is able to rationalize the chaos of modern existence is that we look at certain claims like that and certain things, and we say, that may be true, but if that is true, that's going to be a heck of a thing to come to terms with. So I'm just not going to admit that into my, psyche. So there's this weird sort of way in which, depending on how it's done and the strategy through which disclosure happens, it may not really make that much of an impact at all.
That's a very interesting perspective. And I think that if a disclosure were to occur, that you might be correct on that. I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see, frankly. Because sometimes when things happen, you're surprised by the way that people react. But based on what has been quote unquote disclosed so far, I think that the explanation for why it hasn't made waves that much, and because I have been following it fairly closely, just out of pure fascination with the whole thing. I mean, as you'll remember, our viewers and listeners who watched or listened to the first episode that we did on this topic, is that I'm agnostic on the question. And we even like sparred a little bit on that. But I am of the
Highly
opinion.
likely.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that we do not have any compelling evidence of the existence of extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm of the disposition to say that I don't know either way, and I don't have any real strong, just personally, don't have any real strong reasons to believe that there are or there are not. Right. So I'm actually just super interested in the topic, because if there is evidence that comes out, I could easily be swayed to
Right.
become right. So I've been following it, and there has been nothing of particular note. And when I say of particular note, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been anything interesting. There have been some interesting things. The things I've found the most interesting are more testimony from military personnel who say that they saw something strange. The
So that's
problem
what the
is,
files are. It's just they're leaking where
yes,
these people have said they've
Well,
yes,
but also
seen
like
things.
video footage,
video footage,
photographs, that
audio
kind of thing. Yeah.
tapes, even going back to like the Apollo missions.
Mhm.
Right, strangely enough, like audio tapes have the astronauts saying that they saw strange things in space. Now I've done the deep dive because I was so interested in that. That was actually some of the more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And most of it has a plausible explanation for what was happening. And so now some of the testimony, though, doesn't have a very plausible explanation. And so it is, to me, genuinely unexplained. But there is a leap you take from unexplained to it's aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And so there hasn't been anything that qualifies as actual disclosure.
Right.
And the reason why, I think there are a couple of explanations of this, possible explanations of this. One of which is that the government it has the real juicy stuff, and they're refusing to put it out, and they're just giving out a little bread and circus to the crowd to calm them. That's a very popular explanation for what's going on, and that they're not going to disclose the real stuff.
Yeah.
The other explanation, one of the other explanations, is that they themselves do not have anything real firm, any real proof.
Yeah.
Now, what the disclosure of the files shows is that the U.S. government has been very interested in the topic for many decades.
Yeah.
But it may be the case, and the real alien believers don't want to admit this part, but this is just the truth. It may actually be the case that they don't have proof. And if that's the case, then that would explain why the things that they've released have not been conclusive, because maybe they don't have anything conclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a matter of, we may not know the answer. We may never know the answer. I find it hard to believe, given the interest and given the demand for this kind of information. I find it hard to believe that if there were definitive proof, that it wouldn't have been discovered or leaked out at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
They're either building up to nothing or building up to a major drop.
To a major thing, yeah. And I tend to think that it's the former, not the latter.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then you also get to the fact that like wheels within wheels, as far as, because this is by nature. But one of the things that's running in parallel with the UFO phenomena was originally really the Cold War, but nowadays, other national security interests and things like that. And so it makes perfect sense that the government is interested in these questions, right? If something shows up in the sky or under the ocean that we don't know what it is and it's doing weird things,
They want to know about it.
it's like, well, is that the Chinese? Is that the Russians? Is that,
Right.
So yeah, we got to look into this stuff. Like that's what we should be doing. That's what the government should be doing. And not all of what we find should be disclosed, right? And it could be that some of those are like our weird little technology experiments, up in the air or whatever.
Yeah.
But so in that sense, there is this aura of secrecy around it. But I think sometimes what the UFO enthusiast crowd mistakenly does is say, "Oh, well, that's because they're hiding little green men." It's like, well, no, it could be they're hiding national security secrets that have nothing to do with extraterrestrials.
I think a lot of the things that have been disclosed have been things that previously were classified because of those national security interests, and now that time has elapsed and they no longer pose a threat, some of those Cold War things, kind of things. Now they can show us. What's interesting about this is that some of the files that I was reading, where the CIA and the FBI had been tracking reports of unexplained or unidentified flying phenomena, they note in some of this documentation as they're tracking it, because they were worried that it was the Russians testing out new technology. Is that that there was something like, don't quote me on the numbers, you can look this up on war.gov. But it was something like the reports of seeing UFOs in the United States, something like doubled while the U.S. was testing the U-2 plane. Right, and so the U-2 plane was a plane at the time that broke records, secretly broke records for altitude. It flew higher than any plane had ever flown.
Long range, extremely high altitude. It is stealth. In a lot of senses, it is like you can draw a line from that technology to the technology in the space shuttle.
That's right, and it was way ahead of its time. And at the time, it would have been space age, like science fiction type technology. But it was a U.S. plane, and we were testing it. In fact, we were spying on our enemies with it, and there was a correlation between reports of UFOs at the exact same time. Now, that doesn't prove causation, but what it shows is that some of this is explained by explainable phenomena, like things that we actually know what the causes are. The more interesting stuff is the stuff that we can't draw a conclusion about.
Well, you also have to look at like sociological phenomena and different like cultural paradigms as well, right? Like, isn't it weird that the UFO phenomena really took off around the same time that like aviation in human civilization, human history? And so, there's a sense to be made in which our attention was increasingly directed skyward.
That's right.
As this new human technology really took off and came into its own. And so these two stories of just, our own human technology, and also the stories and the potential that we discuss among ourselves about what might be out there, these two things go hand in hand and feed off of each other.
And then
in very interesting ways.
There's a boy who cried wolf phenomena with the government as well, which is that they are lying to us. And the fact that some of these things that they've shown us that were previously classified prove that they're lying. Because, for example, the most obvious one is, for decades, the U.S. government claimed that they had no interest in the UFO question, that they weren't keeping track of it, that there was nothing to see here, basically, right? Meanwhile, they had incredible intelligence agencies like the CIA and the FBI who were doing very active, very intense research into the question, right? And so that we know that they lie to us. Yeah. And then you get this boy who cried wolf thing where it's like, well, they're lying to us about this, so how do we know that they're not lying to us about the other?
Yeah,
and exactly.
I think for me, where I land on it all, kind of like two camps for me. I feel like one, I feel like I'm just so, and I know everyone feels this way, like desensitized by everything, and kind of to that point where it's like, with AI and everything the way it is now, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why am I, that's why I'm just so off the grid on a lot of things. It's because it's like, what does it really matter to me in the grand scheme? Because for one, is it even real? Two, there's all kinds of shady stuff going on. Like when you mention like, okay, maybe maybe it's not aliens at all, and they're just hiding stuff that they're doing, and so it's just like, part of me just doesn't even want to waste my time on it. And to a fault sometimes with just like national events and stuff, I probably should be more in tune with what's going on.
No,
but then also, I just, on the flip side, it's like, when it comes to my faith and just religion, I'm like, okay, but it also could be just, spiritual things that are happening. And we talked about that in Aliens as well. And it's like, that, I mean, that just kind of reaffirms what I believe. And so there's a lot of strange things in the Bible that I know to be true. And so it's like, either way, it's just, this is just reality. I don't know.
It's a weird world.
What you're describing is sort of like a voluntarily, knowingly kind of like checking out. I think is where a lot of I'm not dissing you for that, because
No,
that's
yeah.
kind of where I am on a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
I think that the modern world and the sheer amount of information just kind of encourages that response as a survival mechanism.
Mm.
And I think that, that's a perfectly normal, in some cases healthy human interaction, because you just can't care about everything. And if you
Yeah.
try, you're just going to go nuts. But I think that the downside of that is there are people, entities, that will try to manipulate that for their own ends. But like what you're describing there is like something that's really, familiar for me. I have the kind of that same reaction.
Yeah.
And about a lot of things. And I think this is why, if we do get some kind of crazy disclosure, there's gonna it may not make the kind of impact that we think it would, right? Where people go and like loot Walmart for all the bottled water, because I think there's gonna be a lot of
that will happen, but
there's gonna be a lot of people who just won't believe it. There's going to be a lot of people who are like, well, maybe it's true, but how does this impact me? I still got to pay my bills, and my car broke down yesterday.
Right.
And there's going to be plenty of people who, they'll probably go crazy. There will be plenty of people who join a UFO cult. But like the idea that like, this is going to upend society and people's lives in the same way for everyone, I think is kind of unrealistic.
Yeah. Well, and we know what we'll be doing. I mean, the three of us will start an ET missionary project.
That's right.
Where we spread the gospel to them.
Right.
Yeah. I
that
think
would be sick.
my final word on it would be this: I understand the being checked out part of it. I completely get that, and there are more days than there are not where I want to unplug from being online. At the same time, and go watch our social media episode to hear about this. I've talked about how like having a certain presence. I also want to be engaged with some of these things because, particularly with the UFO and alien question, I'm really fascinated by how drastic the increase in public interest has moved on this question, and the way in which it's connected to the conspiracy theory thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all very much intimately connected. The common ground here is the question of truth and knowledge and evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm worried. I worry about believers specifically because that's who I'm invested in, but really all people, but especially believers who are losing, because of the things that you mentioned, Court, are losing the ability to have tools to be able to discern what is good evidence and what is poor evidence, and how can I arrive at the truth.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, which is one of the reasons, one of the evidences of this on this particular topic is the vast number of Christians who just say, yes, there are aliens. And then if I were to ask them, push them on the topic and say, what's the proof of that? What's the evidence of that? And it would be very difficult to get actual genuine. And it's the same thing about conspiracy theories most of the time. Now, again, there are some that are legitimate, but and so I'm interested in keeping up with these questions because I want to help myself and help other people be the kind of people who are not tossed to and fro by every wind and doctrine, and who have stability. And even when strange things or unexplained things happen, they have the ability and the discernment to be able to sort of sift through the chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tagline that Michael Heiser would use on his YouTube channel comes to mind here, and we owe a lot to Michael. I owe a lot to Michael Heiser. But the world is stranger than you think, but thinking should not be strange.
Yeah,
it's just a brilliant encapsulation of that, and I think it's what you're saying basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm going to continue to be checked out because I have you guys to help me. This is a really, really cool episode. I've learned a lot. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't checked out Alien Part 1, go back and listen to that. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.